The phenomenon of stigmata has captivated and mystified believers for centuries. Stigmata, derived from the Greek word for mark or brand, refers to the appearance of wounds mirroring those inflicted upon Jesus Christ during his crucifixion. These wounds, often appearing on the hands, feet and side, are not mere physical manifestations. They represent a profound spiritual connection, a physical echo of the suffering and sacrifice of Christ. In the realm of Christian mysticism, stigmata hold a unique position. They are seen as a testament to the believer's intense identification with Christ, a physical embodiment of their spiritual union. The stigmatic becomes a living icon, a walking reminder of Christ's passion and love. The experience of stigmata is often accompanied by intense emotional and spiritual states. These can include visions, ecstasies, and a deep sense of communion with the divine. For those who bear these marks, it is a deeply personal and often overwhelming experience. The concept of marking the body as a sign of devotion or belonging has ancient roots. In many ancient Eastern cultures, branding was a common practice. It served to signify allegiance to a deity, a ruler, or a social group. These markings held deep cultural and spiritual significance. They were visible reminders of one's place in the social order and one's relationship to the divine. This practice of physically embodying devotion provides a historical context for understanding the emergence of stigmata in Christian tradition. The voluntary acceptance of pain and suffering as a means of spiritual purification was also present in various ancient religions. This concept of suffering as a transformative force further illuminates the meaning ascribed to stigmata within Christianity. The earliest mention of stigmata in Christian literature appears in St. Paul's letter to the Galatians. "From now on, let no one make troubles for me, for I bear the marks of Jesus branded on my body," Galatians 6:17. While the exact nature of Paul's marks is debated, this passage highlights the importance of identifying with Christ's suffering. Paul's words suggest that true followers of Christ are called to share in his suffering, both physically and spiritually. This concept of shared suffering forms a cornerstone of Christian theology and provides a framework for understanding the significance of stigmata. The marks Paul bears are not merely physical wounds, but spiritual emblems. They signify his complete devotion to Christ and his willingness to endure hardship for the sake of the gospel. Mystical marriage. A union symbolized in suffering, the concept of mystical espousals plays a crucial role in understanding stigmata. This mystical tradition within Christianity describes the soul's union with God as a spiritual marriage. Just as a physical marriage involves a profound level of intimacy and shared experience, so too does this spiritual union. The wounds of Christ in this context become symbolic of the depth of love and intimacy experienced in this mystical union. The stigmatic, by bearing these wounds, participates in the suffering of Christ and enters more fully into this mystical marriage. The stigmata, therefore, are not merely wounds, but love letters, tangible expressions of God's love for humanity and the soul's reciprocal love for God. This concept of mystical union helps to explain the intense emotional and spiritual experiences often reported by stigmatics. A wound of love. Challenging traditional interpretations. The concept of stigmata presents a theological challenge. The prophet Isaiah, in describing the suffering servant, states that by his wounds we are healed, Isaiah 53:5. This passage emphasizes the healing power of Christ's sacrifice. However, the presence of stigmata seems to contradict this notion. If Christ's wounds bring healing, why would a believer experience those same wounds? The answer lies in the transformative power of suffering and the depth of love driving this mystical phenomenon. The stigmata, while echoing Christ's wounds, are not inflicted by an external force. They emerge from a place of profound love and identification with Christ, a willingness to share in his suffering out of love and devotion. This voluntary embrace of suffering paradoxically becomes a source of healing and spiritual growth.